a few seconds before going on stage, my negative voice was screaming out so loud. Who do you think you are? You don't have any experience. It's the first time that you're going to be speaking on this topic. What are you going to do if people don't receive it well? What if people look down on you? The low self-confidence issues right from my childhood. I felt like all of those just suddenly popped. I'll tell you, Sally, what really helped me was one of my favorite motivational speaker, Les Brown. He is the legend in the world of speaking, training, and motivation. He talked about overcoming fear. There was one line that he said, you're always going to have fear in one form or the other. But the important thing is to remember, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Untold Story Told. We've got an amazing guest with us, Aki from India, and he's going to be with us on the show today. I'll give a bit of introduction to Aki. Over the last 6 years, Akhilesh has built a following of thousands of coaches and trainers from around the world, helping newbie coaches and trainers to get clients and grow their own businesses from scratch. But things were not always easy for him. In 2014, he got rejected by 11 companies during the campus recruitment drive, whereas his close friends all got multiple job offers. He dropped out of his master's degree a year later, which marked a really rough start to his career. Growing up with low self-esteem and self-confidence issues, Aki thought he'd never amount to anything. He had multiple jobs, working as an engineer in a factory to being a salesperson at a call center to becoming an English teacher in Thailand. That marked a major turning point in his life. In 2017, after a year of working as an English teacher, he made the transition into becoming a professional coach and trainer. Fast forward to today, Aki is a certified trainer of NLP, ICF-trained coach, and an international speaker, and believes that coaches and trainers are agents of change. And through his signature program, Coaching Business Builder, he has helped aspiring coaches and trainers from 21 countries, from diverse backgrounds, corporate professionals, doctors, hypnotherapists, professionals, and many more, monetizing on NLP and coaching and training skills to start and grow their own businesses. Aki's philosophy is that anyone can build the life that they truly want and to live when they adopt the right mindset, implementing proven strategies and surrounding themselves with the right people. Today, Aki's intention is to share with us his vulnerable stories, experiences, and major life lessons that he learned along the way so that you can build the life you truly aspire to live. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you, Saliha. Thank you. I'm super excited and super grateful for being here and this opportunity to share my experience and my stories with the audience and leave a mark in a positive way.
Yes, definitely. And that's what we try to do here. We share stories that come from the heart, from your own journey, where you've been at, and where you're at now. And that's what we're going to break down with you today, go a bit deeper. So, Aki, let's start with, how would you define who you are? If somebody was to say hello to you today, who's Aki? Who's Aki deep within?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. No, it's interesting because I like to simplify things, right? Because I believe that so many things that we experience in life, personal life or career, we overcomplicate things for some reason or the other. So the answer to your question is, I see myself as a bridge between where people are at this moment and where they want to be. So in the business context, it's a bit more specific, but in general, I feel like I am sent on a divine mission by God, Almighty Universe, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I'm a bridge between where people are at this moment to where they want to be. And in that bridge are things like overcoming insecurities, overcoming low self-confidence, self-esteem issues, and all of that. So yeah, that's a simple answer. I see myself as a bridge.
That's beautiful. I love the bridge because oftentimes a person can be in a very dark place and they don't know how to get to the other side. And these bridges, as you say metaphorically, are invisible to that person when we've all been there. I'm saying that person, but we've all been in a place where when we don't know what's the next step, can we actually get there? And that future or that solution or that problem solving space seems very far away. And that's why I believe in what you're saying is because I've been there not knowing how to get there. And the bridge, that sounds perfect. A place where someone can guide you or take you to that place where you're so scared of or don't know how to get to. That's a very beautiful place to be. So, do you think that you identify with that too?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Mhm. I do have an interesting question for you. Now,
Oh,
your journey, so interesting. I was going through everything that you've done, all the posts that you put up on LinkedIn, all the social media. And there's this one question that I thought I must ask Aki, and it is, can you share a pivotal moment from your journey where you had to confront your low self esteem and self confidence issues? And how did you overcome it?
wow. As you were asking this question, I got a really specific image in my mind. So this is November 2018. So in the introduction, I was talking about me transitioning into a coach and a trainer, right?
Yes.
So in the first 3 years of my career as a coach and a trainer, I worked with the training company based in Bangkok, and then I started my own business. There was
Okay.
this one moment where I was supposed to give a presentation to an audience of about 27 different coaches and trainers from many different countries.
Hmm.
I remember, and that was the first time ever that I was going to speak to an audience after becoming a coach and a trainer. So my mentor and my ex-boss actually gave me this platform. For some reason or the other, the training got delayed. We were actually doing a training, so it got delayed and we were like late for about an hour and a half. So everybody's tired, everyone's like overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like I'm not, it seems like people are not in the right state to receive my presentation. So I
Hmm.
remember a few seconds before going on stage, there was this voice inside. We all have two voices, right? One is positive and the other one is negative. So my negative voice was screaming out so loud. Who do you think you are? You don't have any experience. It's the first time that you're going to be speaking on this topic that you're going to be speaking about.
Hmm.
What are you going to do if people don't receive it well? What if people look down on you? You had never really done this before. All these kind of things.
Hmm.
In that moment, I could all the challenges and the low self confidence issues right from my childhood. I felt like all of those just suddenly popped in that moment. And in that moment, I'll tell you, Sally, what really helped me was one of my favorite motivational speaker, Les Brown. I think now he's retired, but he's the legend in the world of speaking, training, and motivation. So during one of his speeches, he talked about overcoming fear. And there was one line that he said that you're always going to have fear in one form or the other. But the important thing is to remember is that feel the fear and do it anyway.
Hmm.
So that's what came into my mind at that moment because leading up to this presentation, I had worked so hard on that topic that I wanted to talk about.
Hmm.
And just before going on stage, I could not believe that my own, whatever you want to call it, brain, programming, mind, whatever we call it was just screaming out so loud.
Hmm.
And the good news is that I did do the presentation. It was really well received. And I did get the result that I wanted from that as well. So that was another turning point in my life, which we'll talk about sometime later if the context is right.
It's perfect. What you just said, you were coming from a space of making us realize that once we are feeling fear, it can be just, we can be the most confident people. We can be like ready for that moment, but it can happen that fear creeps in at the most unattended sort of times. It's something that comes without knocking. And that made me think like, how did you do it? And knowing that how you did it, how you overcame it is important because as human beings, we learn from each other. We see, okay, I did this worked, then how did he do it? This worked for him. So it's very important to come from that vulnerable storytelling, which you're doing with us today. So yeah, it does help.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, it reminds me, you asked, how did I do it? So the
Mm.
first came to my mind. So in the introduction, one thing I mentioned was I worked as an engineer. So
Yeah.
I had actually dropped out of my master's degree before that. So I had a really rough start to my career. And I'm the southern part of India. India is quite big. So I'm from the southern part. And when I had my first job as an engineer, I was still living with my parents and I still living with the same people and same neighbors, all family members and everybody. So every time I would see them, they would ask me the same question. Why did you drop out? Your friends are working in so-and-so companies. You're working in a small company. And actually my first salary was less than $100 a month. And my friends had at that time were a really good start to their careers. One day, through one of my friends, I got a job in New Delhi, the capital city of India, which is on the northern side, which was like 2,000 kilometers away from my hometown. And it was a call center job, right? And actually, I didn't even tell my parents it's a call center job. I just said it's about communication setting. I don't know what I said, but I didn't really say it's call center because obviously they would feel upset and they would not let me go. The reason why I went there had nothing to do with it being a call center. There was only one reason. And I tell you what it is.
Mm.
Because I realized if I went there, I
Mm.
would be in an environment where nobody knows me. And I felt that's so important when you're trying to change something about you, the environment that you're in, right?
Mm.
Or if you somehow, if you can put yourself in a physical space where people don't really know a lot about you, or rather, let's look at it this way. The people that know a lot about you are not there in that environment. Then you don't have anyone to remind you of how much you screwed up and what you've done wrong. Because
Mm.
now you have the mind space and the physical space to do something about it. So that really helped me. And there are many other things, but I feel like this was the starting point for me. And I didn't know this, all this. Looking back, I realized that's what really helped me because
Mm.
working with this call center, I was doing reasonably well and at least making enough to sustain my own life, right? I had
Mm.
enough fuel to put in my motorcycle to feed
Mm.
me and to go on a lot of road trips alone. So I
Mm.
spent a lot of time by myself. And one more lesson I learned during that period is that no one's coming to save you. As harsh as it sounds, no one's going to come to save you. I feel like we have to take 100% responsibility of where we are, what has gone wrong, if you want to look at it that way, and then
Mm.
start somewhere. We may not have control over everything, but we always have control over something, right? It could be changing the environment, could be reading a book, could be learning from hiring a coach or learning from a mentor. So start with something, and I feel like it will take us forward.
Beautifully said. Beautiful said. Start with something and it will take you there.
Yeah.
Most of us are like in this state where we can get easily, I call it frozen state.
Yeah.
It's like a place of procrastination where we either worry too much about the future, too much of the past, and a person can get stuck, especially if, as you were talking about, being in a space where everyone was asking you those questions again and again. Why did you drop out? Why did you drop out? Talking about the story that did not work out for you and putting it in front of your face rather than what are you doing next? Or what are the beautiful opportunities that await for you? Or how can we help you get there? The question was more like, why did you drop out? And that, as a young person, if you're not strong enough in terms of your mindset, or if you really believe that, then it can easily bring you very much down. Growing up, I had friends, and I know many of us, we have that kind of a friend. With my friend, he was so disturbed by the fact that he cannot do well in his studies at school and cannot get that position and all that, that he got into a depression and he was very depressed. And it became really bad to a point that one day we got to hear news about him taking his own life, which was a very sad thing. And as we, being his friends, just watching him and then experiencing that, even for us, the second experience of that trauma was very harsh. So, what I'm saying is that at a very young age, I understood, and also your story helped me realize that we all, if we are not given the right kind of soul food or the right kind of questioning, as kids or young people, we can embody a certain emotion. For instance, if somebody said to you, why did you drop out? The translation to a child is, I am a dropout.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, this is where, in the world of NLP, you relate with this. We
Hmm.
talk about the difference between behavior and identity. So identity is who we believe we are, how we see ourselves. For example, a lot of people are trying to quit, let's say, alcohol or smoking.
Mm.
They associate themselves as a smoker or as an alcoholic. So similarly, what you said,
Mm.
it it really made me feel like I am a dropout, not just from university, from life.
Yeah.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
So feel like making this difference, I mean, having a clear distinction between how we identify ourselves and
Mhm.
a certain action or a behavior that didn't go well for us. I think it's having that self awareness is so important because then you have an opportunity to do something about it. Because behavior is something that can be changed comparatively faster compared to changing an identity,
Mm.
right? And oftentimes the people around us, they ask questions, tell you things. The intention is good.
Mm.
They
Mm.
want to do good, but
Mm.
their communication skill is so pathetic that it ends up affecting you,
Yes.
right? So yeah, this is one of the reasons why I said surrounding yourself with the right people, positive people.
Mm.
You don't have the solutions to your problems, but they just have this aura around them that when you're with them, feel that positive energy, right? And they wish well for you. So I think that is so important. Yeah.
At a young age with your journey, I understand is that you build a emotional resilience too, because it's not easy to still believe in yourself despite having naysayers, as they say, around you. It's that little spark, that little belief, that little inkling I feel that you probably had.
It's interesting because there's one specific thing
Mm.
that gave me a lot of hope. So
Mm.
this is what happened. So when I dropped out, I had 2 months where I wasn't really doing anything according to other people. I was just at home. But that was a time where I started to do a lot of self development without really realizing that is self development because I was spending a lot of time by myself,
Mm.
into many temples, and I spent a lot of time not to pray, but to be in that presence and feel the energy. I feel that's the important thing about your spirituality and whatever that. One thing that really helped me was somehow I found out that a lot of people are very successful and achieved a lot and impacted the world in a positive way, like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and many other people. They're all dropouts.
Mm.
Okay, so this is interesting. Everybody says that you have to study, you have to do your engineering or whatever. You have to do your master's degree, your PhD. So I really thought at the time when I was 21, I think, that everybody take that route. And I was proven wrong. And I felt, oh, so these people have dropped out, but how did they manage to do that? So I watched a lot of videos about them and I studied their story a little bit. And it gave me a hope that, okay, so it doesn't really matter if you dropped out of university. What matters is what do you do after that? So at that time, I had no idea. And I honestly didn't plan to start my own business or anything like that. I
Mm.
still feel like I have a long way to go. I think we all do, right?
Mm.
That really helped me knowing that there are other people who face similar challenges as you and
Mm.
then to build the life that they really want to live. So yeah,
That's what it is. Feel we live in a world where if we don't have any people who are around us that can give us that support, there's always another way. You can read a book, or
yeah.
you can look at a video, or you can find somebody that you think is a good speaker and just follow them and just see how they came over things. And that's again coming back to your story. That's why we're sharing your story today, and really grateful that you're here because it's very important to share that where we lacked something or didn't have the right people, what did we do? So in your story, you're saying that you looked at some videos as well and some people that you were in a way modeling them, and they became your mentors in the initial period. And I feel if that new way of thinking coming from a mentor does not come, then one can get into the same belief systems and same ideas. It's important to go and, as they say in the past, used to say, go out there and read more and research more. What do you think? How important is inquiry and getting to know more about yourself?
I think that's the most important thing because and I'm speaking to people who are going through something really
Mm.
difficult, whatever that might be in their life. I feel the
Mm.
starting point is with us. So when you ask this question, what this reminds me of is one of the most important lessons I learned from Tony Robbins. So he
Mm.
talks about the three patterns of focus. Before I go into that, let me just say this, and this is coming from an NLP trainer. What we focus on, we feel,
Mm.
right? And how we feel determines what we do.
Yes.
And what we do determines the results we get. So everything starts with our focus, right? And yes, it's not always easy to focus on what we can do, but there are three patterns of focus that people need to understand. The first pattern of focus is called what you have versus what you don't. So even when you might have met a lot of people who are successful in the outside, right? They might have a car, a house, or kids, or family, whatever, but they might be depressed or sad about something. So this is a classic scenario where someone's focused on what they don't have
Mm.
and not focused on what they do have. So the next one is focused on what you can control versus focusing on what you cannot control. A lot of people stress a lot about what is outside their control, and they completely forget to do what is in their control. And the
Mm.
last part is focusing too much on the past or
Mm.
worry too much about the future and not doing much in the present moment.
Not doing with the present.
So the reason I'm sharing this is because when we talk about finding mentors or watching videos and things like that,
Mm.
I feel like it starts from the first step, in my opinion, is to look at what is it that you can control. And that can be reading a book. There might be a book sitting in your shelf that you might be procrastinating on reading for a while.
Mm.
It could be somebody, one of your friends who is doing well and he or she might help you.
Mm.
Could be going for a training program or a course, right? It could be different. And I feel like for everyone, it's different, right?
Mm.
We say, oh, read a book, but there are a lot of people who struggle with reading a book. And I believe is that, okay, reading books is good, but I
Mm.
feel like that's not the best thing for every person. I feel like we all need to identify what is that one thing that works for us really well.
Mm.
And for me, it's to connect with people like yourself who are
Mm.
positive, and they may not be your friends. You might have just met them, but
Mm.
having that association, that a network of people who are positive and wish well for you,
Mm.
for me, that's what works the best. For other people, it could be something else. So
Mm.
again, coming back to my point, we have to look at what is it that we can control
Yeah.
and focus on that thing. And then I think it starts from there.
Yes. And I think it's at a very young age, you say that you were realizing that when you do something different, when you do something that's the opposite of what others are doing, you're always questioned and like, "Oh, why did he do this?" And you're like this, like an outcast feeling. When you're a kid, you just feel like, oh my God, I don't belong. And if that feeling comes at a very young age that I do not belong, it can stay for a long time. What do you think?
I think that it's better. I think it's better to not fit in
Mm.
with the wrong crowd
Mm.
and be by yourself.
Mm.
And in fact, this is where I had another huge learning. I think it happened. It didn't happen by choice, but I feel like life pushed me that way. So when I dropped out, going back to the story, when I dropped out and moved to New Delhi, where that was the first time in my life where I was completely on my own. Like I had stayed in hostels and all that before that in university, but I hadn't done everything on my own. When I say everything, it goes from finding an apartment, a small space to live, paying for all my stuff, and like cooking, washing my clothes, everything, every single thing I was doing on my own. And it also taught me an important lesson that we have to love spending time by ourselves. Because a lot of people, they don't have their mobile, their friends, or their kids. They feel like they're bored, right? And their life is not interesting. I feel like this is where we have to start loving spending time with ourselves. So when that happens, even when you're with a group of people where you feel like you don't fit in,
Mm.
have yourself, right? And you're always going to have yourself.
Mm.
And again, I've seen you talk about manifestation, vibration, all with a lot. I think this is where there's a connection between spending time, loving to spend time with yourself, and vibrating on a higher frequency is connected. Because when you love is the highest frequency, I'm sure you know that. When love is the highest frequency and you love to spend time with yourself,
Mm.
you're vibrating at that level, which
Mm.
will automatically bring you people, opportunities, and connections,
Mm.
which will open up many more possibilities for you. right? And I think that will help you get people who you can have a connection with. They may not be your friends, but they're people that you love to hang out with. I feel like that for me is very important than trying to fit in with the wrong crowd. Yeah, you can be nice, but you don't have to please.
Yes. Beautifully said. I was thinking about how self isolation or being alone has been stigmatized in our society, the broader society in the world as well. If somebody wants to be alone, oh, why do you want to be alone? If somebody wants to just do meditation for a week or something in a retreat, it's like, wow, like, why do you want to do that? Oh, just being, as you said, away from our phones. It's crazy thought for many of us. And it's because we have lost touch with the feeling of just being by ourselves. And that place in Delhi, you was telling me when you started from scratch, just learning how to be independent. I'm talking about myself too, like growing up in a family which was very sheltered, where parents try to keep you away from trying to do things on your own. Then you're suddenly in an apartment and you're like, oh my God, I have to do everything by myself. And then having some time of just nothingness, just silence, nobody asking you to open the door, like you're just you, this room, and by yourself. And I think in these moments is where we start tapping into, as you said, the higher vibration. If we,
Yeah.
but the first thing is to let ourselves feel like we are open to it, that we deserve it. The moment we let ourselves just be, as you said, let go of that control, let go of that self judgment. It's not about others, it's always about us, and just be in that moment of silence, there is a little voice that we that get to understand inside. And that comes when we are in alignment with that highest vibration. Have you felt that?
Absolutely. So many times. In fact, I feel like, okay, you talked about being with yourself, right? Silence. So I have an alternative view on that, and I hope you don't mind me sharing it.
Please
So
bring it up.
we all have certain activities or something or the other that can help you be in that higher vibration. For some people, it's meditation. It's like meditate, being in a temple, church, or a mosque, or wherever they go. But for some other people, it's a different activity. Like for my wife, so we are similar in many ways, but we're also different in many ways. She loves to party, go to the club, dance, and I hate that. I can't stand a place like that. I have respect for everybody who loves it, but it's not. So for her, it's music and dance.
Mm.
Loves it, right? And when she does it, I've seen her being the best version of herself. Like she's talking to her friend, she's like very happy, very positive, very bubbly. And for me, it is something that is a very dynamic activity, like sports, for example, or go karting. So the other day, I went to go karting with my friend, and I actually went with one of my friends, and we actually told, let's see who can beat the other person. And I was literally preparing for 4 days, looking at all the go-karting videos on YouTube and actually beat him. So I love that so much because activities like that
Mm.
really help me because I feel like I tap into my childlike energy and
Yes.
I feel like we all have that child inside of us, right? So I recently came across a quote, I think it was on Instagram, where somebody said, everyone's looking for a partner to grow old with. But the secret is to find someone who you can be a child with.
Yes.
And I feel it's so true.
Yes.
And I think this is where we all need to identify what is that something that can help you really feel alive and in that present moment, because that's where the magic really is.
Mm.
And I feel like may not be meditation. It could be for some people,
Yes.
but meditation doesn't really mean you sit in a place in a lotus position. I
No.
feel the meaning of the word meditation is, I think it's like becoming aware, if I'm not.
Yes.
So that whatever activity helps you do that, dance, music, driving,
Yes.
what we should be doing more often.
Yes. Beautiful. Love it. Love it how you brought dance and singing and go karting into it. I read somewhere too, and I think it says 90% or 99 of what is happiness is the toys in our lives. So
Yeah.
that anything that makes us happy, that brings us joy, and where we feel playful, like we used to play in the playgrounds when we were younger, just playing and playing that feeling. And it was an exercise for us when we went on the monkey bars. It was an exercise for us when we gave our friend a swing, even though she was standing on it or whatever. we didn't feel effort in it. It was effortless. And I believe that. I say meditation because I do that as a practice. If I was doing something else as a practice, I would say yes. But definitely from the very get go, when I first started talking about how I experience spirituality, I always said if it's reading a book, if it's dancing, if it's for anyone, if it's just looking at a rose and admiring, oh my God, look at the petals, how beautiful they are. Or just looking at a leaf and looking at the veins, or anything that way puts your mind to a center point where you're feeling joy and happiness and excitement and effortlessness, as they say, where you are in alignment with who you are, which is your internal source connection. That's where you are just beyond the beliefs and the ideas that you grew up with, and you can just be like yourself. You don't even feel in that moment. I think in that moment, you don't even feel that you have a body. You just feel so happy that you forget that you're sweating, when you have for girls with their nails are chipped. Nothing. You don't feel anything. And it can be anything. For you, it's the go-karting, it's the sport activities. And I really believe that anyone should go out there and find out what it is.
Yeah.
Some people don't even find out what they can't let themselves go. What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Where some of us are just afraid of coming out of that closed box. No, this is not, I'm not going to be, I'm just going to be like this conforming person and not even have fun or slow down when it comes to business and all. People don't slow down. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. I think this again reminds me of one of the most powerful lessons I've learned, and that is our brain is a 2 million-year-old device. So
Hmm.
it's not designed to make you happy.
Hmm.
It's not designed to make you happy, but
Yeah.
it's designed to make you survive. Let me give a bit of a context for people who are listening.
Yes. Yes.
So, thousands of years ago, when human beings were hunter gatherers living in forests, a number one focus was not about how to make more money or how to become successful in business or how to get a promotion. A number one focus was survival because we had to survive from wild animals, from nature's fury, whatever that might be. So the focus was that. So today, our life changes such a rapid pace, technology, everything, but the brain doesn't evolve at the same speed. So it's almost like you have an iPhone on the outside, but the software is 20 years old. So it's like that. So why am I talking about this? Because it's our brain's normal function to make you, to help you survive. So its automatic response is to look at what could go wrong. And I feel like that's why so many people are trapped in that where they are, right? Not letting themselves go because they're constantly looking for, so they've made a habit unconsciously of
Hmm.
looking at what could go wrong if I do something different.
Hmm.
And I feel like a starting point to change this is to
Hmm.
understand that it's not about them being a person who cannot change. It's
Hmm.
actually their brain, which has a normal function of making them look at what could go wrong.
Hmm.
It, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, he talked about something interesting. He said, if you become aware of a small space between your mind and yourself, you have freedom. So it's a bit of a deep concept for a lot of people. So what that means is if you can disassociate from what you're normally feeling and take a break, identify this as small space. Okay, no, I don't have to make that choice. I can make a different choice.
Hmm.
I feel that will give us a lot of power and freedom. I know I can say it easily. It's not that easy to do.
Hmm.
I feel like people who want to make any kind of change, want to make a different choice, go out there, do something else. I think that all of them should understand or realize that staying in that space of not wanting to do anything different is not going to help. So if they really want to do something different and experience something different, it
Hmm.
has to come from doing something different.
Hmm.
And doing something different has to come from identifying that it's the brain's automatic response that is keeping me captive.
Yes. Yes.
But good news is that we have control over it to some extent, to a large extent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Because that's what the listeners want to hear. They want to hear that there is a way out of it, but also
Yeah.
someone that who is a coach, but realizes that there is a place where you can be like that. And that space between the action taking mind and the mind that's overthinking, in between it all, there is a sort of a, they call it higher consciousness as well, our consciousness, which is aware of what is happening and what
Yeah.
we're going to do. And
Absolutely right.
it's also known as presence, where you are in the moment, just experiencing yourself as a human, having that thought, and just making sure that before that thought is executed in some way, shape, or form, just sit there for a while before taking the action. In another sense of meditation, one of the ways they say it is that you imagine yourself as the person and then just you hover above yourself and just hovering above and looking at yourself and saying that, oh, okay, this is me over there having this experience. So, again, back to the idea of identifying ourselves with an emotion in a way of, yes, these are my emotions, but not becoming them.
Yeah. Again, I feel like what you're actually talking about, if I have to simplify it, but in my opinion, it's self-awareness.
Yes.
That's what it is. Becoming aware of how you're feeling in that moment, and also having some sort of idea about how you want to feel, and then figuring out a way to get to that. And I want to share something interesting. I learned this from Abraham Hicks.
Ye-
Perhaps you're right. So one of the biggest law of attraction teachers.
Yes.
So what I learned from Esther Hicks, and this was from one of the videos that she said, where she said, so if you want to change how, anyway, everything is about how you feel, right? Because that's what attracts the people and the opportunities. So if you want to have a different feeling, use a bridge. So I'll give an example. So I'm a big foodie. Okay. Every time I'm feeling down, angry, or upset or sad,
Yes.
I want to change to a positive feeling.
Mm,
Many times what I do is I think about a certain food that I love,
mm,
because it's not because I'm thinking about eating. It's
mm,
because I'm using that as a bridge to go to a different feeling.
mm,
Because if you want to go from a really negative feeling into a positive feeling, it's
mm,
not that easy.
yeah. Mm,
But you can go from a really negative feeling to something that you really love
mm,
very quickly.
yes.
So I use that as a bridge to, okay,
Yes.
and I'm thinking about this thing. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm joyful. Then
Yes.
I think about the other outcome. So for example, let's say I have a meeting with a prospective client, and
Mm,
I'm very confident about the meeting. Or maybe I have a coaching session. I'm thinking, okay, what if my client doesn't like the session? So if I have those kind of worries or insecurities or whatever,
mm,
sometimes I use as bridge, because I'm
mm,
say thinking about my favorite food and I love that. It's a positive feeling. It's a positive vibration.
yes.
Then I think about the other outcome that I want to have. It's like using that bridge, and for different people, it's different things. Sometimes perhaps it's thinking about your kids. It could be thinking about your parents or your movie or whatever that might be, right?
Yes.
For me, one of the biggest things that gives me a lot of joy and happiness is food, because I'm a big foodie.
Just one more thing that is coming to me from here is the idea of transmutation, something that is very evident in the works of Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks, is that they talk a lot about this, the idea of how to get in a good vibration state and no matter what happens. And they also, Esther, when she does talk about how she did feel frustration or something, the car not parking
Yeah.
properly, or I think there was some person who had to come and fix something at her house, something like that, the frustration of somebody coming late. And there was always like how she completely then realized that if she brings herself in the good vibration and that vibration that she feels and that she taps into, such as for her, it was something that brings her joy, then she started getting the results she wanted. For instance, the person who came late to her house to something that needed to get fixed, I can't remember, but she had a good conversation with them. And that conversation led her to the answer of something else she didn't have the answer for. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. We need to, in life, open ourselves to learnings and growing and find mentors and people like you who bring the message. So today, Aki, tell us, is there something you would like to share with the audiences? Something, some program that's coming up, some trainings you're doing so that the audiences can make the best out of it?
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for this question. I just give you a brief context about my work. So I work with new coaches and trainers to help them to get more clients and to start their business from scratch. That's my niche.
Mm.
Um, Many others who are helping them to scale, but my focus is helping them get started and reach a point where they're making a consistent income every single month. So yes, I do have my next batch of my group program coming out. It's called Coaching Business Builder. And the focus of this program is basically three things. Number one is to help new coaches and trainers create really compelling offers for their programs, whether that means one-on-one coaching, group coaching, training. So that's the first thing. Second thing with selling, because which is a lot of challenge for a lot of people. So I focus a lot on helping them sell in an authentic way. And the
Mm.
third part is basically marketing or attracting potential clients in five different ways without running paid ads. So that's in short what my program is about. It's a 4-week program, and I'm looking for a few more people for the next batch, which I'll start in the next 3 weeks. So if anyone is interested, they can reach out to me. LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to me. Our email is also okay.
Beautiful. I'll put in your links for the upcoming program. Do send them to me, and I'll put it in the video and also the sound clip that will go on to Spotify, and the listeners and the viewers can make the best use of it. Thank you for sharing that. And before I let you go, Aki, I will quickly ask you one more question, and this is more to do with mindset. So, Aki, what motivated you to persevere after facing rejection when you were in the campus recruitment time and when you dropped out of your master's program? What was that motivated you? What was that motivation?
Honestly speaking, I think that motivation, there's two sides to it, in my opinion.
Mm,
There's an outside motivation, which
mm,
is when you're thinking about what others are going to think about you, what your partner or your parents are going to think about you. So for
mm,
me at that time, my outside motivation was huge because I had to make my parents happy and get away from all these people, right? So I was constantly looking for what I can do. And that's how I got the first job as an engineer. And then I went to Delhi. So the outside motivation was there. And
mm.
also on the inside, I was a bit happy when I got rejected from these companies because I knew I didn't want to work with them anyway. So I feel like sometimes rejections like these are redirections.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so that's, I would say it's a combination of the outside plus the inside and the internal plus the external motivation.
Can you say that again? Rejections are re?
Sometimes rejections are redirections.
Yes. Beautifully said. Yes, they are. And there's so much more we can tap in with you today. I want to hear about what happened after Delhi. I also want to know a bit more about your ideas on mindset because you have so much knowledge. We can learn so much from you. But at the same time, your program's out there, and I'll get everybody to get in there too, because that's another way to get in touch with you, get to know more about you. And we will definitely have, if you are willing, another podcast in the days to come, and we'll take it from there. I think it's good to have you on the show and get to hear more and more about what you have to say. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Sally. I really enjoyed it. I'm super grateful and can't wait to have the next one.
That's so interesting. All the story. I'm just thinking about all the visual aspect of today's story. It's so interesting watching Aki going through everything. And it's good to have that side to you too, because I really wanted to know more about what did you feel? What did you hear? I'm pretty sure the audiences will love all the little stories and get more value from it too, because we are all in a place where if we hear somebody else's story, it can help our story get into a better place. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Saleha.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you
bye.
very much. Bye bye.